We're here today with Matt Bottrill, multi-champion and currently the competition record holder at both 25 and 50 miles. In 2014, Matt achieved 5 national titles and also won the season-long Ron Kitching Trophy and was also awarded the Bidlake Award. So Matt, how did you get into cycling in the first place?
Basically, I was hyperactive at school and I needed something to channel my energy into. So my granddad took me along to like the cycle touring club, and that was at the age of 12. And then basically did 2 years of just like enjoying riding my bike, and then progressed there from like Colville Wheelers, and that's when I won like the junior national 10.
Yeah.
And it just escalated from there really.
Yeah. So what was your first race? A Club 10?
Club 10, like most people. Yeah, I think I did 24 something. So
you're pretty quick even then.
Yeah, absolutely. But I always had the background of doing like the cycle touring, so I had all those base miles in.
Yeah.
It just escalated from there really.
And did you, at that stage, were you mixing? Were you doing road racing and track? Or did you...
Yeah, everything really. Mainly more road and like criteriums, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I've done for a number of years up till about 2008. That's when I stopped road racing and stuff.
Right. What about cross? You ever go cross?
No. I did one mountain bike race once, but generally.
And what about track? You used to go to Saffron Lane, or was it still going?
Yeah, we used to go down to Saffron Lane and stuff. I did do the National Pursuit one year, but I pulled my wheel over, so that was a disaster.
So have you always found that time trialling is what you're best at?
Yeah, absolutely. I've done it all on the road. People seem to forget that I've ridden for Great Britain. I've rode all the worlds. I've won like a Premier calendar, won Eddie Sowins races in France.
Yeah.
But time trialling it has been always what I've been better at.
Yeah. So that's what you've obviously concentrated on.
Absolutely. And then when I had the family, it's a lot easier to focus on the time trialling. With less training and stuff. So.
Yeah, because we were talking earlier on. You were saying that's for other riders, that's really important to take on board what they can fit in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like not overexerting yourself. It's maximising the time that you've got available.
So, what sort of, when you were sort of getting going in the sport, when you were a junior, had your first success, what was your training regime like then?
Oh, compared to now, it was disastrous. It's like it was just I didn't really know what I was doing.
So what sort of things were you doing? Going out and doing long rides on a Sunday?
Yeah, long ride on Sundays, like the club run, and then going hard when I wanted to. It wasn't very scientific. Generally riding the Club 10 and then racing at the weekend.
Yeah. Did you used to go out on your own or go out with a chain gang?
We used to have, like, when I first started, it was great. There was loads of us. We used to go out. But yeah, as time's gone by, people have had kids and all that kind of stuff. They've all moved on and I'm still doing it.
But doing it very well.
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say were the sort of landmarks in your career then? What are the things you're most proud of over the last, say, 20 years since you've been riding?
I think one of the, like starting off with, like, when I won the Eddie Sowins, that was like a turning point in my career. I lost like Pete Longbottom.
Oh yeah.
He was, a lot of people are going to know who Pete is.
Yes, yeah.
But I lost him, and I remember that race. I felt like he was with me. It was unbelievable, and that was like a big turning point in my career.
Yeah.
That's when I started getting selection for like Great Britain and all that kind of stuff. Winning my first national title, which was like the National 100, that was like a big turning point.
Because you'd had a sort of reputation for always being the nearly man.
Yeah, they always used to say always the bridesmaid, never the bride, and it used to wind me up. And I think that's why I've always stayed so focused, because I wanted to win so much.
Right.
It's only been the last 3 years that it's sort of gone my way. It's taken, it took me 18 years to win the National 25. I've got more medals than I can even remember. But it took me that long to win it, and that was a massive achievement for me. To have
very popular winner. Everybody felt he should have won it. He deserves it.
But I was just, people like Michael Hutchinson and stuff. They were phenomenal athletes. It took a long time to get the upper hand of Michael.
Yeah. So what would you, if you had to say one thing that you're most proud of over since you've been cycling, what was the one thing you would say?
it's obviously winning the nationals. Like last year was just phenomenal. Breaking competition records. But one of the things I was most proud of was when I got second in the British Time Trial Champs, because that was really unexpected.
And you were against pros.
Yeah, against the pros. And like people, beating Ben Swift, Luke Rowe. I wasn't expecting that.
Can we talk about your training? You said that when you started, you didn't really know what you were doing. You used to go out and sort of mix it around. I guess it's fair to say over the years it's got more scientific.
Oh, absolutely. The last few years it's very scientific, and that's what I've been able to pass on to the coaching and side of things. It was meeting people like Bob Tobin and Simon Smart that changed things for me.
Yeah.
I remember riding the nationals and coming second. I was third to Michael Hutchinson, and I thought, I've got to do something. I'm 2.5 minutes behind this guy. I thought I was training hard, but actually I wasn't. And it was that was the turning point for me. I either said that I've got to quit or, do something about this.
And what about, you've never had a coach before then?
Yeah, I'd had coaches, but that was mainly from a road race background. But it was basic stuff using heart rate and all that kind of stuff. And it gets you to a certain point, but you can almost, it's like last year we were getting it down to the point you knew exactly what time you were going to do within a few seconds. It was phenomenal,
What, before you started?
Yeah, it's like when, it was like Bob would say to me, right, you need to hit this power. And because I, found this winning pacing strategy that we were getting the times within.
I'll have to ask you about the pacing strategy.
Yeah. I'm not going to give it all away. But
So you really only started taking sort of seriously then, to back 5 years ago?
Yeah. It was that after that national. That's when I remember emailing Bob. He was part of Cycle Power Meters. I remember emailing him saying, "Look, I haven't got a clue about power meters. Can you explain how they work?"
So the power meter is the key thing for you then, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the key things, working on power, riding with power and stuff.
Now, can you explain to me, if someone's never used a power meter, how does it work then? So you've got the bit on the crank, that fits on there, and you're getting readings from that.
Yes.
So the readings go, what, you put it on a laptop?
Yeah, well, it goes on to, you take the readings off your Garmin.
Yeah.
You basically, you have to do like a threshold test, and that works out what power that you can sustain. And
do you do the threshold test on like a watt bike or something?
Yeah, well, I generally say to people, you can do, there's a number of ways, you can do lactate testing, you can do it indoors, but I always say do it, how you replicate in a race. 10-mile time trials, is one of the best ways of doing it.
Yeah.
So, and then once you know what you can sustain for this 20 minutes, then you work out all your levels from that, really.
Oh, okay. So that's the sort of like the base level that you should train. So if I did, 400 watts.
You take like 5% off that, and then there's a formula that gives you all your levels for training.
Yeah.
And then you know what you can do for like 20 minutes, an hour. So what you're trying to do is push these levels up all the time for a peak goal.
So if I was starting today, okay, so say that I'd been, I took up cycling a year ago, maybe rode a couple of club 10s, and I decided that I'd like to be really good at it, and I came to you, Matt, and said, right, so the process would be then you'd tell me, right, do a threshold test. You would then sort of work out through. You have special programs on the laptop?
Yeah, it's all done. How it all works is it starts off with you have like a questionnaire, and just go every bit of detail in your life. From how you work, how you sleep, how you eat, everything, anything you can think of is in this questionnaire.
Right.
And then from that, I work. You tell me what you want to achieve, and then we work back from that.
Then you would give me what, a training program?
Yeah, a training program.
Right.
It's based on the goals that you're trying to work towards.
Yeah. Just give me an idea. So I've just started, and I wanted to beat the hour. Okay.
Yeah.
So what sort of? Can you give me some idea? What might be involved in that?
It's just through what, it depends how you're coming into the sport, if you got base miles in.
I see.
And there's a number of ways that we can work out what it is that you need. If you've done nothing, you've just been riding, then obviously we've got to work out a way of trying to push your threshold up. We do lots of sweet spot training, that kind of stuff.
What sweet spots training?
That's basically, it's 10% off what threshold is,
Right.
but it's a good way of trying to push, like your threshold power even higher.
Right.
So we do like blocks of that, and I just work out, even if you are just running on heart rate or something, it's just working on you, finding out what your weaknesses are. The power's a way to do it because you can track everything online. You can see, based on the goals that you want to achieve, where your weaknesses and strengths are.
Right.
So
what sort of weaknesses would you be identifying then?
Just it just depends what what are you aiming for. If it was like a 25-mile time trial, then obviously we know you need to ride at threshold.
Yep.
So then, like I say, we use sweet spot training, but there's so many different intervals that you can use. It needs, God, it's endless. Like.
So what would the difference say that I? Okay, so we talked about 25, but if I wanted to win the hill climb or something like, what would the difference be?
Then you'd use like lots of like microburst intervals, Tabata intervals, like really short intervals. It's just always planning the training to the demands of the rate, the event. But you always need that base there.
Yes.
But then you work to progress that.
Oh, I see. So you've got a base, and if it's a 25, you do more type 1 training, and if it's a hill climb, you do.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many different ways of training, but where most people will make the mistake is they'll actually just train in one area. Where I'm clever is you get people to train in all different areas.
And the clever thing about the coach then is being able to interpret it and then turn that into a training program for the rider. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like looking at the training. Where is the rider? Where are his weaknesses? Their weaknesses. How do they pace that race? This how aerodynamic is that rider? Especially for time trialing, you can be so clever with it.
Should we talk a bit about aerodynamic? We're here in your training base, if you like. And there's lots of nice
man
pictures.
cave, yeah.
There's lots of great pictures on the wall. But one thing I noticed when I came in, there's pictures of you riding. Your position on the bike has obviously changed fairly drastically over the years. Can you talk about how you've developed your?
Yeah, it's it was basically going back again for 4 years, meeting Simon.
That's Drag to Zero.
Yeah, Drag to Zero. Simon Smart was he was the brains behind it all. We went to the wind tunnel, and it sort of just escalated from there, really.
So just tell us about, for people that have never been, we might have seen what's it like going into a wind tunnel to have your position checked?
Yeah,
what actually happens?
Well, you arrive at the wind tunnel, and obviously, they'll look at you take like a baseline of what your position is on the rig, and then from there they're looking at like lowering your drag numbers. So, and there's a number of ways that they'll do that.
Sort of have a fan blowing over.
Big turbine. And that's what. And like Simon, there's so many areas that they'll look at, and they're just trying to make you more aerodynamic on the bike.
Right.
And then it's going away from the wind tunnel, and you then being able to use that position, like you've got to work on your core so you can hold it better and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I see, right. So it might not come naturally to you then?
No, absolutely.
It probably feels a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah,
when you first...
and absolutely, but the wind tunnel, it's not just about you get the position, it's almost like a learning curve, because, Simon's giving you all this information, and then you just got to translate that into the race. And that's where, if you're clever, you haven't got to have the best power numbers in the world, but it's putting everything together as a bundle. So
this is where the coaching comes in.
Yeah, so the coaching and the rider being clever. The coach can say so much, and you can look at every area, but then there's still the rider. They've got to listen to what they're being told, and that's the key to it all.
See, I would have thought that you go to the wind tunnel, okay, and you. They've run some tests on you, and they say, right, well, put his handlebars down, his saddle's too low, and maybe it's not forward enough. And then I would have thought that once you've got that, but it's still not. That's not enough. Just having that bit right.
No, it's everything. There's so much to go. It's not just about the rider's the biggest key. Is the biggest part. You just don't look how big a rider is, but then you starting looking at skin suits, and that's why people are going so fast now. It's not just. The rider's got the coaching right, the rider's got a good position. To be the best, you've got to look at every area. there's so much that goes into it. You're trying to find 1% all the time. You know, I'm at the stage now where there's not many percents left, but even still, you're trying to find them.
So for you then, so what's made the big change over the years then is probably better, more scientific training.
Yeah.
Set up on the bike that's good, that you can work with, and you know how to get yourself in the best position as well.
And pacing, nutrition. You know, like my body's changed so much since I've trained the way I have.
Okay, well, let's talk a bit about that then. So I think you told me a while ago your racing weight's what, 72 kilos?
Yeah, 72 kilos. Yeah. You know, I've been lighter than that, but it's always finding that optimum balance. You know, like you get too light, then you know you're going to lose power. So it's it's just the demands of the race that you're training for.
Yeah.
But you know, you want to be as lean as powerful as possible.
Can you talk a little bit about the sort of your training regime, sort of off season and during the racing season? What sort of, how many hours a week you're spending? What sort of are you doing, working on the watt bike, or you go how much on the road? Can you just talk us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, let's start, you finish the season and then it always starts with like a break. I generally have 2 to 3 weeks off and I won't even touch the bike. Mm-hmm. Then, you come into the winter period and that's where you have to start all like the base stuff. But what you don't want to be doing, you've got to get the base miles in, but where most people go wrong is they use too much time, within the winter. Mm-hmm. Because every rider that's, unless they're full time, has only got a certain amount of training stress that they'll be able to tolerate. So, you need to get the base stuff in with some, like strength work in there. Mm-hmm. For me, I always do a bit of running and work on my core and strength quite a bit.
So do you use weights?
Mainly my own body weight, like doing a lot of, I just use like some DVDs, that kind of stuff, mm-hmm. really. And that's key, like within the winter period. And working out, like you finish the season, then working out what all your weaknesses are, and then you go into the winter and you train on those specific areas.
So you'd have some time off after the season. You come up to, what's your Christmas like? Do you let it rip?
And generally, you build up towards a structured training program. Then you'll build up to like the Christmas period, mm-hmm. and that's when you sort of need another break. Because again, if you use, you're training quite hard. Because generally speaking, I'd say that most people have got anywhere between probably 6, 8 to no more than 15 hours training. And 15 hours is quite a lot for somebody that's working full time.
Is that what you were doing? 15?
No, for me, I train 8 to 10 hours really, and for the last 3 years, that's all I've done. Because, fair enough, I'm doing the coaching now, but the demands of the job are still high. So my job isn't as physical, but I still want to be a good dad. So, I just cut it back to 8 hours. And
what would those 8 hours consist of?
Then it just depends the time of year. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of mixture of like the sweet spot training, microburst intervals, threshold work.
And this is actually on the bike.
Yes. Generally once I get into the new year, always work on the core, Pilates, that kind of stuff. Again, I just use like DVDs, just like 10-15 minute workouts mm-hmm. each day, and then you come into like the transition of racing. And then that's when you start using all these different intervals, because what most people make the mistake of is obviously they do the winter the base, and then they come into the train. They're probably doing 10-12 hours, but then they come into they start racing, and then generally time trialists, they'll do like the 10-mile time trial. Well, 10-mile time trial with your warm up, a little bit of a cool down. Then you're only going to hit a certain, you're going to hit a certain amount of points, and it's just like doing an hour at like level 2. Mm-hmm. So you went out and did an hour at level 2. You're not going to get much of a workout from that. So the key is to keep training, keep on top of the training. Like when you start in to the transition of racing, and then it's just working towards goals all the time. You get into the new year. You've got to have the specific goals that you want to work towards, and then you work the training back from that.
Okay, so you would then was your season normally start about March?
Yeah, March time.
Right. So you have a race maybe
once a week for me. It'd
right.
be.
Okay.
And
what would you typically do during that week in the build? So do you ride every day?
No, generally for me, I have 1 to 2 days off a week.
Okay.
You know, and
so you ride it. Say you're riding on a Sunday morning. So you typically so you'd ride what, Monday to?
Yeah, for me, I always have, like, for me, Sunday is a family day. I don't generally train on a Sunday, so for me, it's always been like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday probably off, then Friday, Saturday training, and Sunday off. And that's how I've, that's a general training week.
Yeah.
But, when I'm building up towards like a national championship, then that's when I use, I might use that extra day. I'll always generally have a Sunday off. I don't race that much on a Sunday, but I would train probably 6 days a week then. But then that's when I overload on training. And that's,
so what's a really big week for you in terms
of 12 hours.
Okay.
So I never do more than 12 hours. But in that, with training with power meters, everything's based on like training stress scores. So I know that I can only hit a certain amount of training stress, because if I do too much, then I'm going to overtrain. And that's when you're going to hit your goal race, and you're going to arrive at that race tired.
So does that? I mean, a lot of people just ride 10s and 25s, and you've ridden up to 100, yeah. Yeah. So how does your training reflect? Do you need to do actually more physically on the bike training if you're riding 100 as opposed to doing 10s?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like, what are the demands of that race? For that you'd use like more threshold. For a 100-mile time trial, then for me, I wouldn't train. It's like when I coach Charles Taylor for the National 100. It's no more than 3 to 4 hours, but it is very, the training that, some of the training we were doing for the 3-hour blocks was as hard as what the race was. So, in that there'd be a lot of threshold work, sweet spot work. It's just evil.
So we'd go out for a maximum of 3 hours, but doing different activities.
Yeah,
during
absolutely.
That not just pounding away.
Because you want to get faster and faster as the race goes on, so you have to train in that way as well.
Okay.
So that's how I, for like Charles, we train him in that way, that for a 100-mile time trial, so he doesn't blow.
So that's great, because back in the old day, it was always just do lots and lots of riding, but it's got.
It is. You still got to do a lot of. You can still do like lots of riding, but it's got to be specific work. Once you've got that base there, that and if you've been racing for years, you're going to have that base there. So it is being clever with the hours that you've got available.
So say somebody wanted to do like a 24-hour race.
That again, you've got to do more work than.
But I mean, if I wanted to, I've ridden a couple, and if I wanted to do another one, could I get away with just doing 12 hours a week?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could, but you'd have to be very specific with the work that you did. I think it's like Jill Wilkinson, training there for the 12-hour. We did some 6-hour rides and stuff, but you can, if you are working, you can only achieve so much. If you've got a family and everything else as well, because you're just going to get drained. But it's just being clever when you use those hours. It's not using those hours all the time. It's using those hours, if you're training for a specific goal 6 weeks before. And that's where you have to become clever with your training.
So how important is nutrition to you, Matt?
Massively. It's like what you put in is what you're going to get out at the end of the day. Like for me, it's always a matter of not just having a steady glycemic index. So,
Sorry, explain that for the...
it's so you don't, like when you get sugar, insulin spike, that's when you're more prone to getting ill and stuff, picking up colds, germs. So you always want to have like a steady, glycemic index. So it's, it's a mixture of having good carbs, good proteins, and eating regularly. Like rather than eating like 3 square meals a day, for me it's a matter of eating every couple of hours. Just like little snacks, might be some nuts, seed, a banana, whatever.
So just take us through a day. You're in the racing season now.
Yeah.
You're coming up to a big event at the weekend.
Yeah.
So this, what would your
So
diet be today?
For me, it'll always be, I wake up and I always have like an Actimel drink, and I have some muesli, banana, fruit, and then a black coffee. That's how I start my day every day. Then I get up now about 6 o'clock. So then I'll then do some work till about 9, and then on the bike I'll start. I'll probably take a gel and some energy drink with me. Within my training. But the key is then once you get back is to refuel. So I always look at like they always call it the 10-minute window. So, but I always call it the 20-minute window where you want to have something to eat. So I always have like a recovery shake, and then I will have like a wrap. I tend to eat a lot of wraps, so I'd have I don't know, some ham or chicken in that with a bit of salad. So I'm recovering straight as soon as I get back. Protein, carbohydrate, because I'm going to be less prone to picking up illness, especially with the kids and stuff.
Oh, I see.
Because they're little germ bags, to be honest. But by doing that, then you're going to be less prone to illness. And then it's just a matter of showering, and always put, for me, I always put some compression wear on because you want to recover. Because you've always got to think about the next day. It's not just that day's training. And then again, a few hours after that, I'll have probably a banana, some nuts, all that kind of stuff, or a yogurt and some cereal. Like I eat a lot of muesli. And then it'd be my afternoon, my evening meal. So again, good proteins, good carbs.
Meat and 2 veg?
Yeah, you just want good carbs and good protein. You can always have bad days, but you just don't want them all the time. And that's how you'll get, you'll always optimise your progression. Especially when you're working towards a key goal. You've got to be, if you want to be the best you can be, then diet is really important.
So do you measure the number of calories you have during a week?
No, not really. What I will make sure of though, if you're doing like a specific workout where you're going to burn a lot of calories, especially if you're training really hard, like the way I coach my athletes, and you're going to be burning probably 800 calories, maybe 1,000 calories an hour. It can be that hard. So you've just got to make sure that you supplement your diet with more calories then.
Well, what about supplements and
yeah,
that sort of
thing? The key is to have a good diet, but what most athletes that train as hard as what we do, and they've got active lifestyles, is they'll be missing things like vitamin D, because obviously we don't get enough from the sunlight, so vitamin D is a good supplement. Omega-3s, zinc, because by training as hard as and having an active lifestyle, then especially for men, it's like testosterone levels can be really low, so zinc's a good one to supplement within your diet. And that's pretty much what I have. But I try and make sure I've got a very varied diet. Don't eat the same things every day.
And what about drink? Do you have like a beer? Do you wine? What's your attitude to alcohol?
I generally, when I'm in like tunnel vision, I'm training for a national. Then for me, I don't really think about alcohol. But I always have like 3 bottles of cider. For when I cut, like if I'm after the national, I'll always have these 3 bottles to celebrate. yeah,
it's a reward,
even good or bad, because I know how dedicated I've been for that. But for me, I don't generally drink. But there's nothing wrong with having a glass of wine.
So people you're coaching, then you don't say, "Oh, no alcohol."
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not a specialist. Nutrition is not something I'm a specialist at. I can only explain what I use. It is a specialist field. But they're the basics that I would say to anyone. It's a varied diet, and being, you just don't want, if you want a chocolate bar, then have it when you've come home from training.
Are there anything you tell your riders just to avoid at all costs?
No, again, if you're having McDonald's every day, then I would say, don't do that. It's just variation. You can have bad days, but then you need more good days than bad.
Yep.
But if you're working towards a goal and you've dedicated to yourself so much, then you need to have treats, definitely.